Evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for allowing me a moment to address you. Actually, I wish I had a prepared speech. It would make it a lot easier, but I don't.
Ralph, would you please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2330 Satterfield Drive, Pocatello, 83201. Actually, I'm here in support of my wife, who will be speaking to you, but I wanted to briefly say a couple of things that may or may not support her. First of all, as you know, I am circulating a petition for a referendum to place the newly passed ordinance on the ballot in November 5th. And just so you know, I have a copy with me. You're all welcome to sign it after the meeting. I probably have room for everybody. This referendum addresses the question, should one self-identified group of people within this community be afforded special protections beyond those legal protections already available to all citizens? You know, we've probably come through the most contentious problem, at least that I've ever seen in the 8 years I've lived in this community. I've never seen anything that has created so much angst, so much anger, so much fear, so much contention, and has put a community on edge like this so-called non-discrimination ordinance. This has really kicked us in the gut as a community. And it's not going away, because the people who want this are determined that they are going to grant a special privilege to a small group of people who are very loud, very well organized, very well heeled, and they can afford to push this. But it is interesting that when a citizen, whether it's me or anybody else, decides to exercise our right as citizens to challenge an ordinance, it's interesting to see those people who have cried the loudest about needing protection from the rest of us, whatever that means, how hateful and deceitful and cunning they can be in trying to destroy not only your character, but the very substance of our whole process. This referendum is my right as a private person to circulate because I disagree with the ordinance that has passed. I shouldn't have to be fearful going home at night, but more importantly, my wife shouldn't have to be fearful of answering the door, and she is, because of the hate mail, the things that have been in the paper, the things that have been on television. My wife will give you a better description of it, but I just want to say that this has to stop, and it can't be resolved unless we as people of goodwill can agree to disagree and then carry out our legal responsibilities and privileges as American citizens to be heard. And with that, I yield the floor to my wife.
I have a question for Rob.
I didn't know this was going to be a discussion session, Councilman, but I'd be happy to do so.
She can ask your question. Yeah.
I watched your interview on Channel 8, and
Yes.
you stated that your petition would have no effect on the ordinance itself, that it would just show whether or not the community was in favor of that. And I was confused by that because I thought that your petition was for a referendum against the ordinance to do away with it. And what you said was just the contrary. So could you clarify that for me?
Perhaps you inferred incorrectly, Councilwoman, and what I did say was this has no effect on it, and that's true. All this has an effect on is whether the rest of the community can have a say in whether or not they want to accept this. This is a petition to allow a referendum to place the question on the ballot. It has no question. It has no bearing on the ballot question. This is just to allow everybody to have a vote. So putting this in circulation means that if we are successful, and it's a very hard slog uphill because we've got very little time. If we are successful in getting enough signatures, then the issue will be placed before all the people, not just the city council, and all the people can then decide what they want to do about this ordinance. This doesn't change the ordinance, it doesn't add to it or subtract, it simply says we can all be heard on it.
Right, so what you would like on the ballot is whether or not the ordinance should stay in effect.
That's correct, but this doesn't affect that. The ballot issue would. This only gets it on the ballot.
Right.
You folks will probably determine the language of the ballot question.
What I understood you saying in that interview is that what you're doing has no effect on the ordinance.
That's correct, it doesn't. It has no effect on the ordinance. This is simply to put the ordinance before the people, and the voters will have an effect on the ordinance. This has no effect on the ordinance. Are we clear?
somewhat, but I think...
Well, don't let me leave without
somewhat
clarifying it, because I
convoluted.
can see you're confused, Councilwoman. I don't want that to happen. I've had a couple people say, well, if I sign this, am I voting? I said, no, you're not voting. You're saying
It's just to get it on the ballot.
I'm sorry?
It's just to get it on the
That
ballot.
is just to place it on the to place the question on the ballot as to whether or not all of the people agree with what the city council has inflicted upon us.
So I guess what my question...
Inflicted upon you?
That would be my description of it, yes.
So you have an issue with the way that we voted?
Absolutely.
And you're hoping that others will join you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you think it's okay?
Is there a reason why I shouldn't be allowed to have my voice as a citizen heard in the community?
No, I just question whether or not the majority should vote on the rights of a minority.
And that's a good, thank you, Councilwoman. I would ask you, people like to throw the word democracy around a lot. Who was it? Ben Franklin had a description of democracy. It's two wolves with a sheep deciding what's going to be for dinner. The majority rules. In our republic, we use a democratic process to get things done. The democracy means the majority rules. The majority hasn't spoken here. The city council has. A number of people from outside the community, outside the state even, came in and were heard, and their testimony, or whatever you want to call it, was accepted prima facie as gospel, even though it was anonymous and it was anecdotal. What I'm doing as a citizen in the community is exercising my right as a citizen to challenge what I feel was an unjust law. That doesn't mean it is unjust. That's just the way I infer it to be. I believe it is unjust because it doesn't represent the entire community, in my opinion. And we're all entitled to our opinions. They're like noses. We all have them.
Well,
So I'm saying that
we have been elected to represent
that's correct.
The community and
That's
the
correct.
voters.
And you would be surprised at how much of the community disagrees with this ordinance. And that's the question, Councilwoman. The question is whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter. What the people have to say about this issue. You folks pass ordinances all the time, and 99.9% of them they may be questioned, but for content, somebody says, well, that's too much money, or whatever it is. I have seen nothing in the short period of time I've lived here. I've never seen anything that involved the entire community with such anger, fear, contention, however you want to put it, as this. This is too big for four people, even if you have been elected. And not everybody elected you. A certain number elected you. I didn't. So
Majority did.
the majority did. And the majority then has spoken. And that's all I'm asking here. I'm saying if we can put this on the ballot, let the majority speak or let the minority lose, however it is. But it gives everybody a chance to be heard. Not everybody was heard in here. And the decision you made may have been driven by your personal agenda or personal ideas, just as mine are. My ideas are in here. Right or wrong, they're mine and I'm going to have to bear them. Your decision to vote for this was your decision. It was your idea, and right or wrong, you live with it. What I'm asking is that we all have an opportunity to be heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Rochelle Lillig.
Rochelle Lillig, 2330 Satterfield Drive. I know after what Ralph has said, you understand what I'm going to talk about. I want you to understand also that the perfectly legal steps we have taken to do this are in the city code. So understand that this is according to the city code that we are doing this referendum. It has nothing to do with anything other than what the law says we are to do. And so we're handling it that manner. Since we have begun this, we've received hate mail, we've received hate email. I'm fearful of going to my door sometimes because of the things that have been threatened on Facebook. I have something to show you that appears on the Facebook page, or did, of Tom Nestor, who owns Hair Masters and Company at 838 East Clark Street. And he posted this or a friend of his named Steve Dunn posted this picture. I'm going to give you blow-ups of it, but it says, hey Tom, here's a more fitting picture of Ralph Lillig of Pocatello. And I'm going to be giving you to share and see what you think of this and what you would think if your granddaughter saw this picture on her Facebook page. This was done by the people who are standing for this. This is done by people who don't want us to go forward with this. There's a man in Idaho Falls named Dan Henry who's on the board of directors for the ACLU. So when they said that the ACLU had no impact here, they did. It's the same ones that are up there now. And the things that he has posted on his Facebook page were so vile that I reported them and they were pulled. I have never spoken unkindly of a person. I don't do that. That's not my nature. It's my faith and my belief that God tells us to love everyone, and I do. My heart breaks for the things that are going on in the world. My heart breaks for the homosexual community, that there are so many that will die young because of this the sexually transmitted diseases that will be done and that they'll have. And I wish there were a place here to go and help and actually wash the feet of those who need kindness and who need the care and need someone to hug them and love them, because you all know that's my nature, that I am a hugger. So there was one more thing that I need to bring up, just a moment. There's a transgendered woman in Idaho Falls who has said she will bring 20 people to my front lawn.
Thank you very much.